All right, today we're diving into the story of a goddess who is just so deeply connected to the earth. We're not talking about some distant celestial being. We're talking about a goddess of the forest, a savior from famine, and a fierce warrior all wrapped up in one. This is the incredible story of Banashankari Devi. And just look at this image. It perfectly sums up her unique power. I mean, we usually think of gods fighting demons with lightning bolts or swords, right? But Banashankari's greatest weapon against starvation is, well, it's nourishment itself. She's literally covered in the very thing that gives life, vegetables. And if you can wrap your head around that paradox, you're on your way to understanding her whole story.
Her name actually gives us the first big clue. Banashankari breaks down pretty neatly into Vana, which means forest, and Shankari, who is the consort of Shiva. So right off the bat, you see this amazing fusion. A deity who is tied to a super specific local place, the forest, but who's also plugged into one of the biggest gods in the entire Hindu pantheon.
Now, to really get who she is, we have to go back to her origin story. And this isn't just some ancient fairy tale. It's a really profound story about an ecological crisis and this incredible divine intervention. A story that feels, surprisingly relevant today.
Okay, so the story goes like this. A demon, Durgamasura, steals all the plants from the world, and boom, a catastrophic famine hits. So the goddess appears to save the day. But here's what's so interesting. Look at what she does first. She doesn't just show up and start a fight. Nope. First, she feeds everyone. She literally produces life-saving vegetables from her own body to nourish the world. It's only after she saved humanity from starving that she picks up her weapons and takes care of the demon.
So this one myth reveals her whole complex identity. She is Shakambhari, the one who brings food. She's Durga, the fierce protector. And as Parvati, Shiva's consort, she's firmly part of the mainstream tradition. She's a nurturer and a warrior, a local spirit and a universal goddess, all at the same time.
But here's the thing, this is way more than just a story from some ancient text. The worship of Banashankari is literally grounded in a real place, with a super deep history. So let's take a look at how her worship went from a local, humble shrine to this massive religious center.
Her most famous temple, at a place called Badami in Karnataka, shows this journey perfectly. People were probably worshipping her long before the 7th century, just a local forest deity in a place known as the Tilakaranya forest. Then, in the 7th century, the super powerful Chalukya dynasty comes along and builds her a proper shrine. Fast forward a few centuries, and the Marathas are investing in it too, keeping that royal connection going.
And what you're seeing here is a classic pattern. It happens all the time in religious history. A deity starts out as a local spirit, just tied to one small community. Then, royalty adopts her, and she becomes a state deity, a protector of the whole kingdom. And over time, she grows into this major regional hub for worshiping Shakti, that divine feminine power.
And this is what she looks like in that royal form, seated on a lion, crushing a demon. I mean, this is a goddess who means business. She embodies the power and authority of the dynasties that worshipped her. This isn't just a simple forest spirit anymore. This is a tutelary goddess, a seriously powerful protector of the state.
But Banashankari's story doesn't just stay in one place. As her worship starts to spread across India, her identity starts to shift a little. Different regions start emphasizing different parts of her amazing myth.
You can see a really clear difference in how she's worshipped. Down in her heartland of Karnataka, she's Banashankari, and the focus is really on the forest and her warrior power. But if you go to North India, she's known mostly as Shakambhari. And up there, the emphasis totally shifts to her role as the vegetable bearer, a goddess of fertility and pure nourishment.
So that brings us all the way to today, because her story is definitely not just ancient history. It's a vibrant, living tradition, and it's celebrated every single year in one of the most unique festivals you can possibly imagine.
So you have to ask, right? How do you remember a goddess who saved the entire world with food? Well, the answer is actually really simple and beautiful. You celebrate her with food. The yearly festival, it's called a jatra, has this huge chariot procession and a boat festival. It's a big deal. But the most important part, the core ritual, involves the offerings. Devotees don't bring garlands of flowers, they bring garlands made of vegetables. Carrots, gourds, leafy greens. They are literally reenacting the myth, thanking her for the food she provides.
And now when we look at this image again, the meaning just clicks into place, doesn't it? This festival isn't some sad memory of a terrible famine. It is a joyful celebration of survival. It's a ritual that remembers famine as something the goddess conquered, turning a story about desperation into one of absolute divine abundance.
So, let's pull it all together. Why is the story of a forest goddess who literally wears vegetables so powerful? And what can we actually take away from her legend today?
Well, it really boils down to three big ideas. First, Banashankari is a kind of ecological memory, a story that holds onto the real terrifying fear of drought and reminds us how sacred food is. Second, her story is a perfect example of the localization of the divine, how a universal power like Shakti can become deeply personally connected to one specific place. And finally, she represents this really complex and awesome form of gendered power, showing that a goddess can absolutely be a fierce warrior and a loving nurturer at the exact same time.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought to chew on. In our world, a world full of anxiety about the environment and food security, what can we learn from this ancient goddess? What kind of wisdom is hiding in the story of a goddess who came from a forest, whose greatest heroic act was to feed the world, and who is still worshipped today with the very vegetables that symbolize her power to give life?